Hello. It's been a bit since I've had one of these discussion videos without a script, or we have just in general a discussion video where I just talk to the camera or the microphone for a while and just talk about something specific. Today I decided to talk about something that I don't think I'll be able to talk about in any kind of level design video or grab bag video or tutorial or anything, because it really is just such a specific concept in level design that kind of at first doesn't really relate to level design, but then you start to think about it and it really does matter, not just in level design but in a lot of things that someone as a creative has to do. And that is the concept of being open to criticism and being open to changing the way that you act and the way that you create things. So let me explain this entire concept with a story that happened very recently, which I'm sure a majority of my audience probably knows about. And I won't be mentioning names for the sake of privacy and for the sake of not instigating harassment. This video and the things I'm going to be talking about here are purely for education purposes, and I do not condone harassing people for this. If you know what I'm talking about, please don't go harass them. I don't think it's productive nor worthwhile doing that. It just doesn't help anybody, you know? So this story that I'm going to be talking about today is a story about ego and a Z-Mech, which the footage will tell a lot of what I'm talking about, but not really. This is the story of a level maker who joined the Discord server some time ago with the idea of wanting to use artificial intelligence to design levels. Now that's already a red flag because, funnily enough, and thankfully actually, ChatGPT doesn't really know how the level structure for PvZ2 works. It doesn't discern how a JSON is supposed to be structured, so that's fine. It won't be able to make levels. It tries. You can actually ask it to make a level and it will try, but it will fail because the level will just crash on you, because the level structure of ChatGPT, it doesn't line up with what we use for PvZ2, so it'll crash pretty much 100% of the time. So anyways, that's already a red flag. I've seen many people try to do that. Please don't be lazy and please design your levels properly, not just with an AI. That's just laziness. But that's not the point. The point is, the level that this creator made is the one I'm showing on screen right now, in fact. As if you can tell, yeah, there is a few very blatant issues in the level, but that's not the point. The point is that the level itself is okay, actually, once you get past the blatant lily pad issue, but the main issue with this creator, and the point of the story that I'm trying to get across, is a story about ego. Particularly ego and opinions in level design. Now, everyone is entitled to an opinion, and I believe it is okay to have opinions about what you're creating or what you like or dislike about creating levels. For example, in a grab bag video where I played a level that someone made, they told me that they didn't like leaving ways to randomness, right? That's okay. But I told them, okay, that is completely fair. However, it would have improved your level if you used this thing, for example, or that thing. And and they were like, oh, okay, well, that's completely understandable feedback. Thank you for the feedback. And that's a good exchange. That's a very productive exchange where the person has their opinions on level design and they want to keep making levels that way. And that's completely okay, I totally respect that. But then we have the situations when we come to this specific story where instead of taking the feedback nicely and trying to learn from it and improve yourself from it. The level maker went on to be very demeaning to other level makers in the community, mainly saying, "Oh well, that's not my words, by the way." Well, okay, these are definitely my words. I definitely don't remember everything that happened, so please take what I say with a grain of salt. Like, oh, you have a skill issue, or oh, it's not that hard, it's very easy, and you just did it wrong, or something like that. When the issues are very blatant and obvious if you just take a look at the level itself, right? Or if you just play it yourself, you'll be able to tell these problems very easily. So people eventually kind of just gave up trying to give them advice on the levels. And later on, this level creator made a second level where they kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to spam Z-Mech and I'm going to spam multiplicity because, aha, it's funny." And people obviously went on to tell him, "Hey, don't spam mini bosses. Mini boss spam isn't fun." And that's because of a different story with someone else, some other level creator that was in the community ages ago. It was called Johan, and I feel like the Johan story, that's definitely something for another day. But to keep it brief, they basically made really bad levels that just spammed mini bosses and were pretty much impossible to make. This level creator got really obsessed with that, and we're not sure why. And they started joking about wanting to make levels like that, and people obviously told them, "Hey, don't do it, or do this, do that, it will make the level better." But instead of taking the feedback well, they were very defensive about it, which is completely understandable. It is okay to defend your opinions and argue with people about what you think is right or isn't right, as long as you do it in a civil manner. However, this person, what they ended up doing was just getting really mad and started demeaning other people, particularly me, because when I told them, "Hey, try to be nicer to other people who are trying to give you feedback," or don't be surprised if people don't like your levels because you're not listening to feedback or trying to improve, or are just being very blatantly hard-headed when it comes to taking feedback, right? And they got really mad at that, which is honestly fine. Maybe my tone could have been better, but that's kind of how it went. So what came after was very interesting. Eventually they kind of had a meltdown, and I decided to mute them because, well, why are you going to have a meltdown over all of this? It's really ridiculous, At some point, it came down to trying to understand that this person wasn't really in the right, not because their levels were necessarily bad, but because they were simply very selfish. And that's a very, very, very strong word that I don't like to use, but let me explain exactly how this works. Basically, level design is about taking something, improving it, improving your craft every time you make a new level, stuff like that, right? That's very, very obvious. And you improve by not just by making levels on your own, but by also taking feedback from other people who are willing to help you out. So that's pretty obvious. Like, it's very easy to improve on the mechanical skill of level design for the most part. Like, if you just keep taking feedback and improving on aspects that you're weak at, you'll improve your level making very quickly. However, there is a second aspect for level design that I think is very, very important, and that is the concept of mentality in level design. And what I mean by this is, it's psychology for the most part, really. It's your own psychology, your own mindset, your own way of seeing things when level designing. And the most simplest way that I can explain this is with a good or bad analogy, pretty much. You can come into level design with two different mindsets. And obviously it's a whole spectrum, but let's just keep it simple so you guys can understand this concept. You can come into level design thinking, "Oh, I'm going to make very awesome, cool levels, and I'm going to improve with each one, and I'm going to take feedback from others and make sure that I keep improving my craft. That's a good mindset to have, because it'll keep you open to opinions and feedback that you might otherwise not have, and you'll be able to improve your levels that way. But that also helps improve yourself, because then you're open to different opinions and feedback from others that you could agree with, or you could just say, okay, that's okay, I hear you, however, I just think differently, or I just see things differently, or do them differently, and that's completely fine. As long as you do it in a civil manner, nothing's going to happen or be bad about that. And then you can have a different mentality where you can come in all depressed and be like, well, I'm going to make levels, but I'm not going to improve them. I'm just going to do them for fun, and I don't care about what people say or do or think about my levels or how I act, and I don't give a shit. That's obviously a very, very harsh and very blatant way of putting it, but that's a bad way of doing things, because sure, you'll be making levels, but people won't really like them, and you won't really be improving your own craft along the way, while also keeping your own ideas in check, which, like, that's okay. You can make bad levels, but be a nice person, and coincidentally, you can be a pretty bad person and make good levels. The point that I'm trying to get across here is that mentality is very, very important, right? It's incredibly important when it comes to level design, because the more your mentality changes about anything, not even just level design, just about the world around you, how you see yourself, how you see others, that will change the way that you interact with others, and as a result, the way that you learn, which is good. So where does that leave the story with this level maker? So at some point, the people in the Reflourished Discord server decided to start trying to help out this person, especially me, because we started to notice that this level maker was being very selfish. In the way that they were saying, oh, I'm a good level creator, I do things this way and they're okay. And people were like, no, like, objectively they were not doing it well. And again, you can just go back and look at the gameplay that I shared. It is not good. So in that regard, objectively their levels were bad, and they were not really taking accountability or trying to learn from it. So then people told them, hey, maybe you should change your mindset about things, try to be more open to feedback and learn from it. And they were like, well, I'm trying to defend myself, and I'm trying to make stuff just for fun, like, leave me alone. And making stuff for fun is okay. I don't really care if you're making stuff just because you like having fun. Even if it's bad, if you're having fun with it, that's what matters. However, the problem arrived when this person started to be just really demeaning to other people in the server, just because they were trying to help them out. And they were like, okay, geez, I get it. Like, stop trying to help me. I don't care. Not exactly their words, but that was basically the vibe that they were going for. And at some point I just said, okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna time you out. Please go take a break, because they were clearly getting really mad. So I timed them out for a day. And that was that. That was the story up to that point. And I would have really liked to end the story there and say that they improved on this selfish attitude, if it wasn't for the following day. The following day, after their one-day timeout had run out, this person returned to the server and was really, really mad at me for timing them out, because someone was telling them how to improve another level that they had made, and this one was a pennies challenge level, which meant it was super spammy and it was very, very poorly made. Someone was trying to give them honest feedback and honestly just telling them, hey, this level is not good. You need to try improve here and here and here. And they did it in a very, very, a kind of abrasive but honest way. I didn't see anything wrong with it. So then they were like, hey, that I did the level correctly, and I did this and did that, and like, why are you calling my level bad? It is not bad. It is a good level. And then I arrived in the chat and they were like, and don't you dare time me out again for another day for doing absolutely nothing. And I was like, okay. I was just over here on my chair being like, okay, that's a little sus. a bit of a sus reaction, honestly. So we started talking for a bit, and I was like, hey, maybe you should try to calm down, man, because this isn't helping your image, this isn't helping you improve your levels, this isn't helping improving yourself as a level maker. And they were like, oh, I don't care, time me out again, I don't care, I will keep complaining about all of this until you guys stop. Again, not their words, but that was basically how it went. And at that point, I just said, okay, this guy's basically a lost cause. I'm just going to ban them. And on that day, they got banned. They only lasted like 4 or 5 days in the community, and they very much didn't make a good impact of themselves, which was really, really bad. And that was that. That's the whole story. So where am I going with all of this story? What is the moral of this story? The moral of this story that I want to leave you guys with is that you should try to be open to feedback. You should try to improve not only your own levels mechanically, the way that you structure the waves, the way that you structure your gimmicks, your mechanics, your execution. Like, you should be open to trying all of that, but you should also try to be open to improving your own person. Because self-improvement is a very shaky concept. I know there's a lot of people who either don't care for it or don't really see it as something worthwhile. And especially with the social media landscape that we're in today, a lot of TikTok, for example, tells you that, oh, you're worthless because the world is fucking burning. And which, I mean, yeah, the world is fucking dying right now, but that's a completely different topic. The point is, try to love yourself, try to be open to not being as selfish, try to be open to civil discussion with other people. I guarantee you, if you try to be open to others and to talk through things and whatever, like just having a civil conversation with someone who they have a different opinion about you or about what you create, you'll learn a lot from that and improve yourself and become a better person and a better level creator as a result. It is something good. A lot of the improvements that I've done as a level creator haven't even come from making levels necessarily. They've come from having discussions with people. The most clear example that I have from that is when we were making the Harvest Timed event last year. I was in charge of making level 1 for that event, and for level 1 I had an idea of adding in lone chickens to the level, and I really liked the idea because it was very fitting thematically and it was very silly. However, PvZ didn't like the idea because it was too harsh for the player. They needed specific counters to counter the singular chickens that will appear sometimes, and it was too spammy. And he told me, hey, maybe you need to change this. These chickens, you need to train them into chicken wranglers and use those more instead. And I was like, wait, but why? Like, it doesn't affect anybody. And then he told me that's not a good way to look at things because it really hurts the experience of the player since they are being forced to counter those lone chickens, and that isn't fair. It is also way too much for a level 1. And at that point I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I just conceded because I said, yeah, you're correct on that. After I analyzed it more and then I tried out doing the changes, I found out, hey, that is actually a much better change. And I conceded to PvZ and told him, hey, you know what? You were right on that. And that was a change not only for my own mentality, but for my own level design, which is good. And I improved as a person with that. The other situation that comes to mind during all of this for mentality has to be with the level making contest, which we've had recently. I've been mentioning it a lot in my custom level grab bag videos. The level making contest was another place where I had to change a bit of how I acted towards people and how I behaved and gave my feedback to others. due to the way that I generally worded my stuff, it was pretty harsh, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you who watch my videos might remember if you were in a collaboration pack with me. I used to be pretty harsh and very, very direct with my feedback. It was very, very, looking back, it was bad, straight up, and I shouldn't have done that, which is why I'm going to take this time to formally apologize for that. And I did that in the contest as well, because during the contest, I will leave some very harshly worded feedback due to the way that some levels either made me really mad or they were so bad that they genuinely made me angry. And in some cases that still holds up true. I do still get mad at some levels sometimes because of just how poorly made they were. But I've learned to cater my feedback more so towards being descriptive and explaining why things are wrong rather than just berating the level maker for that. And that not only helps the level creator, who will get better feedback, more constructive feedback for their own level, but it also helped me improve my own way of writing feedback and helping others. So yeah, that's going to wrap up this entire video. That's the moral of the story. Just try to be nicer, try to be open to feedback. Don't think that you're some like savant of level design, because a lot of us aren't. Even I tend to mess up very often and do some really stupid and silly decisions. Like, that's okay, that's just part of making something. You'll mess up, you'll learn from it, and then you'll improve. That's fine. And the main reason why I'm saying this is because besides the situation which I already told the story of, there's the situation with a few people in the community who think that their way of seeing things is like a quote-unquote correct way of seeing things. And I don't think that's a good way of looking at level design and looking at feedback or giving feedback in general. Like, it's saying that your opinion is the right one and that nobody else is correct, or saying that things should be done in one specific way and doing it in any other way is wrong, is just not productive and not okay for the level design community, or even for modding in general. It's just not a productive or good way of doing things, And again, I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to get into fights with anybody. I don't really care about internet drama or anything like that. I just don't think it's productive to fight these people directly or by mentioning their names and stuff. And I just think people can improve, from all of this. They can improve in giving feedback, they can improve in mentality, they can improve in a lot. Even I can. Anyone can. It just takes opening up your mind a little bit and being open to feedback and criticism and just talking things out. That will help you with that. So I hope that message does help somebody out here, even if you decide to just have this as background noise. If you decide to not really care about the message, that's okay, at the end of the day, I'm really just saying this because I think the story that happened from it is very interesting, and it does leave you thinking, hey, maybe we can be more open to feedback and criticism, and that's okay. Even I can. And that's what I'll keep doing, because I like level design, and I like creating things. And I like helping others create things. But it does mean that we sometimes have to improve our own mentality and mindset behind those creations, so that we can keep improving.